Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Teacher Talk, the podcast. This is now the third episode of this podcast, and I'm here with Mr. Colston. Say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Colston is a teacher in the upper school who teaches the infamous pre-calc class and also teaches Calc 1 2, which is also pretty infamous, but maybe not if you actually have motivation to do the work. Anyways, I first had a class with Mr. Colston my sophomore year, which is crazy to think about that I'm still suffering under your teaching.
That was a long time ago. You've grown up a lot.
I know.
Maybe.
Maybe. And I feel like we have like a sillier relationship in the way that I like have no filter, which maybe is good, maybe it's bad.
I didn't realize that you had a filter anywhere.
Yeah, so exactly. But anyways, I've been looking forward to recording this one, and I know other people have too, not to put the pressure on.
I feel it.
But I'll start asking questions now. So starting off with silly questions, I hope you noticed that I wrote silly to describe them.
That's not me, but we'll try.
Yeah. And I thought this would be a fun math-related question, even though I'm expecting you to answer like y equals x for the function. But describe yourself in 3 functions or equations.
Well, I might have written y equals x as one of them. But I just wrote 3 parent functions because now that I'm a parent, I just thought that parent functions would be the way to describe me.
That's funny. So that's all you wrote.
That's it. I'm also super boring, so I didn't want to do anything too crazy.
Okay. Nothing too crazy. Okay, that's great. That's funny though. That's silly. That's silly enough. Also, Mr. Colston helped leads the disc golf club at school. He did last year and sometimes this year. And he's actually good at it, or used to be. You played in tournaments. You played in real tournaments.
Yeah, I did.
So I thought it would be a funny question to ask that if you were to put together a team of students to play disc golf with you, who would it be and why?
If I was putting together a team, I would want to play with Owen, Keegan, Ryland, and George. So
they're the best people.
Yeah, they're the best people. We need a lefty in there, so Owen has to be on the team. Keegan's there for fun, and Ryland and George are pretty good.
Okay, good to know. I'm glad they got some shout outs, because they were probably the most consistent people.
Right? Oh, that's also true. Maybe that's how you get better, is showing up.
Right. And next question. If you didn't know, Mr. Colston is a Taylor Swift fan, but you don't like her newer stuff, which is valid.
I was an old fan.
So I thought it would be funny to ask if you were at a concert and she was like, come on stage and sing a song with me, like which one would you want it to be?
Since that happens all the time,
right.
I would definitely sing Best Day.
Okay,
go back to the Fearless album. I was at a concert back in 2009.
Are you serious?
I went to her Fearless tour.
Where?
It was awesome. It was in the Verizon Center in Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay.
And it was awesome. But I've always been a fan of Best Day. Now that I have 2 girls, love the song even more.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, where were you seated at said concert?
So I was the second level, first row. And at one point,
good.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had a friend who had some extra tickets. Some people who bailed, and so me and one of my baseball teammates, we were like, yes, we got to go. And so at one point, when she moved around the stadium, and she was right underneath us singing one of her songs, and it was fantastic. Best concert I've been to.
Yeah, she's such a good. I've been in Arizona before one time, and it's like insane experience, honestly. Even if you don't like her, I feel like
she's such a great entertainer.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Mr. Colston is a proud Virginia Tech alum.
Go Hokies.
I'm sure you guys know if you've had a class because of all the college stories that we get. So what was your go-to meal in the Virginia Tech dining hall?
I ate General Tso's almost every day. When I was at least a sophomore, also being a freshman, I ate General Tso's from our Owens dining hall.
What is that?
General Tso's chicken. That's a
brand of chicken?
That's it's like Chinese food.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's delicious. And there, I had a friend.
Really good.
Yeah, I had a friend who worked there, and so he just gave me double servings and charged me for one. That was really the main reason.
That's really nice.
Quantity over quality. Yeah. Even though Tech was the number 1 or 2 ranked food while I was there.
Yeah.
All 5 years.
That's awesome. And now just for a wholesome question that I actually have no idea what you would answer to, but if you didn't know, Mr. Colston has a wife here at Trinity and has 2 really adorable daughters. So if you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be and why?
Well, I hate to travel, and I hate hypotheticals, so I would just live in Durham for a year.
Nowhere. You don't like to travel.
No, this is the wrong Colston you're talking to. You should have
Miss
asked
Colston.
Miss Colston.
Where would Miss Colston go?
She would answer everywhere. So we have different answers. I don't want to go anywhere. She wants to travel the world.
Well, would you travel with her?
Of course, and we have. Yeah, we love going to national parks.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
We've been to Ethiopia and the Dominican Republic together on mission trips. We've been to Greece to visit some friends who are stationed over there.
I did not know that.
So we have traveled some places, but I would never want to live outside of where we live here. We love Durham.
Okay, big Durham fan. Okay, now getting to the more reflective part of the episode. Mr. Colston has a very strong faith and has been pretty outspoken about that, especially for our senior class this year, I feel like, which has been a huge blessing. So, first question is, how do you balance being a teacher of rigorous subjects with being someone who leads worship and cares deeply about students spiritually?
Yeah, I love I love pre-calculus and calculus. It's been voted maybe one of the hardest classes, which I don't understand. It's hard material, but a super fun class. So all those underclassmen listening, pre-calculus is great. But at the same time, even though I love my content, that's not what has ultimate importance. And so Galatians 5:6 says that the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. That there are lots of secondary things, sports and academics and my job, but what really matters is the gospel and knowing Christ. And so I don't want to compromise my curriculum. I want to make sure I have a rigorous class where students are actually learning, because that's important to learn. But I ultimately want them to understand that it doesn't matter how well they do in my class. It doesn't matter how well they do on the field, on the court, that their identity, like I want them to know Christ and to know that their identity is in Christ, not in how they do in my class, even though I believe my class is also important.
Yeah, that's great. And on that subject, what do you think, when you think about your time here teaching at Trinity, what's a moment where you clearly saw God at work in the community or like as a student and its student?
Yeah, reflecting over this, I guess I've forgotten how long I've been here, because I've been here now for a handful of years. But I do think actually this last year has been really cool to see you guys as seniors lead the school. I love being on the senior retreat. I thought that was one of the coolest experiences. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to. I was like, as you mentioned, I have 2 daughters. Well, back then I only had 1 daughter, and I was like, I don't really want to go for like a couple nights, get away from my family. But being there was just so amazing to see. Like the night of worship was super cool. Yeah. We had 30 people singing worship songs for hours right outside the room I was trying to sleep in, and so that was really cool of all time, just to be like not be able to go to sleep and just to go outside and sing worship songs. It was super cool, and just seeing God work through you guys to really impact the school has been awesome.
Yay. That makes me really, really happy. And we just had our senior worship yesterday. I'm sure everyone
which was fantastic
knows that. But it was great to be able to kind of do one last thing and hopefully make a lasting impact on the people. Like Mr. Colston said, he has 2 daughters. They're both adopted, and he first adopted Maya while I was in his pre-calc class, and then this past winter while I was in calc, he adopted Ava too. So I wanted to ask, how has fatherhood, especially like through the adoption process, impacted your perspective on life and teaching and even faith too?
In so many ways that we could be here for hours on end talking about this, but to try to sum it up into a couple sentences and to make sure people don't click exit on this video when they see it's hours long. In Galatians 4, it talks about that we are adopted as sons and daughters of Christ. And that's something that I've always resonated with. that we might get into later about talking about our identities in sports and academics. But it's something that I've just seen even more as now we've adopted Maya and Ava into our family, that I can see that like I know even better that they're a part of our family. There's nothing that they've done to be a part of our family. Like, we pursued them. They're in our family. Like, God pursued us. Yeah. God is an infinitely better father than I can ever be. He loves us. He calls us his own. There's nothing that once we follow Christ that we can do to like be removed from his hand, in his family. And during the adoption process, like praying through that and seeing God move through that just opened my eyes up even more to that I am his child, just as even more so than Maya and Ava are my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. We all were like talking in pre-calc that spring, and we were like, did he make the exam easier because of the adoption process? Like, were those two things connected?
They could be. I don't know if you thought that your grades this year were easier because of Ava. Maybe not. Maybe not. You were just trying harder as a sophomore than a second semester senior.
I think so, unfortunately. And similarly, on that same wavelength, what's one lesson that you hope your daughters will learn as they grow up, and how do you plan to teach them that through your example?
I hope that they know that it's okay to fail. I think that's something that our culture, even here at Trinity, that we don't do a great job is saying that like it's okay to fail things. And I'm sure that I will lead an example because I will fail a lot. I fail already as a parent, and I fail as a teacher many times, and that's because I'm human. And our imperfection is what points us to Christ.
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes we grow up and we want to try to be perfect. We want to try to please everybody. But I hope that they can realize that it's okay to fail, that you can try new things and be uncomfortable and not succeed and learn from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this year, a senior year, is the first year that I've like been, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but more comfortable with failing at things. Because I realized that I can't do everything, and I can't do everything right.
That's a good realization to come to, especially when you're in a place that is so supportive and you have the community here. Yeah. It's better to do that here than off in college when you don't have the same support system.
Exactly. And I think it's been super valuable for me to learn that, especially, before I go to college, because it really is okay. And like in the long term, like it really doesn't matter if I get a 66 on one test or multiple tests.
That's true.
And like I was saying, senior year has been a lot harder than I thought, and not just in schoolwork, but in other ways too, for different reasons. And it feels so weird that 3 weeks from today we'll be walking across the stage, hopefully. But what advice would you give to seniors like me and like others as we prepare to leave Trinity and go out into our different places?
I think twofold. One is God will go before you. Philippians 4:6 that actually Jack talked about yesterday in the senior worship is talking about like, do not worry. That's because God is good and he will go before you. Life is not going to be easy, but God is with you. Yeah. Jeremiah 6:16 talks about ask for the ancient paths, and basically we stand at a crossroads, and there's this prayer of tell me which way to go. Now in Jeremiah it talks about how God tells them where to go, and they did not walk in it. I think it's often it's really easy for us to say prayers that we're like, God, tell me where to go.
Yeah.
But we actually have a way that we're like, I want to go this way. I'm not actually open to this prayer. I'm praying this because I want to direct this prayer to what I want to do.
Right.
Be open to God leading you maybe into uncomfortable situations, maybe leading you into situations that you're like, I had my heart set on this major or this career, but maybe God is saying, that's not where I've called you to be.
Yeah.
Practically, for seniors who are Christians, you need to find a church and a Christian community. Christianity is not meant to be a isolated, like live by yourself and don't like interact with others. You have to be a community.
Yeah.
There's no way you can grow in your faith by yourself. You have to find other believers that can encourage you and just do life together.
Yeah. And this is not, I didn't write this in my questions, but when you went to Virginia Tech, did you have friends from high school who were there, who were like a community of believers and that you could find a church together, or what was that process like?
Yeah, so a little background on me. I was a K through 12 Christian school student. Like many students here, it was a similar size school. I graduated with 53 people. Had fantastic parents who raised me in the church, and going to college was the first time that I was like, wait, I'm choosing to go to church. I'm choosing to do these things. And I was unsure about what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I went with 5 classmates. I roomed with one guy that I knew kind of like in a class of 53, you know everybody.
Right.
We weren't close friends. We ended up being very close friends. And the people on my hall that I met early on really encouraged me, okay, let's go find a church. Let's go find a Christian ministry. We were a part of InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. Yeah. And that changed my life. The people around me who at first dragged me to church, and then we all went excitedly. Those are the people that really shaped my life and shaped who I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And going back to you and your job teaching here at Trinity, what do you think your life would look like if you hadn't decided to teach? And how has teaching impacted your faith, or how did faith inspire you to teach?
So going back to my time at college, I was really involved in InterVarsity Christian Fellowship and was, just super impactful to my life. And it got to the point my junior year that I thought about dropping out of school and being a missionary. I was like really leaning into the only thing that counts is the gospel. Yeah. And I was like, man, college doesn't matter. Maybe I should like never go to classes again. Maybe I should just like move to the middle of nowhere.
I didn't know that. You wanted to be a missionary?
So yeah, I can't remember what different stories that I've told this year. Obviously, I've been out so much that we haven't had as many calculus circle times as normal. But my junior year, I almost dropped out of school to move somewhere. Wow. I didn't know where. I didn't get far along in this thinking other than I should drop out of school. And maybe that was my selfish ideas of like, I'm done with school. But it focused more into maybe I should go on staff with InterVarsity to the point where they have this conference called Urbana. It's every 4 years. It's their global conference. And I got to go to it, and I got to be a part of a I can't remember what they called it, but it was like if you are encouraged to be on staff, you get to go to these certain seminars. And so my staff leader thought that I would be great for that. I had interest, and so I got to go hear from these different staff people from around the country, and I was really close to trying to move in that direction. But it was actually at that conference where I heard a talk from David Platt, who was talking about God leads us not just into being a pastor or a missionary. Those aren't like the super Christians. Like Christians are just people who live out their lives with a gospel focus. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I really want to teach. I love the idea of teaching. I love these classes. I think that's what I'm called to do. Yeah. I just thought that the ministry option was like the super Christian option. Right. And at this conference, that was really actually about me becoming a staff member was when I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a teacher. And that's clearly what God has called me to do. Yeah. That second part of the question, where how has teaching impacted my faith, or how did faith inspire me to teach, goes back to some of my high school mentors. I had this one science teacher, Mr. P. He taught me 4 sciences. Again, a small Christian school. Right. He taught me all 4 years. Just deeply impacted me because he had A, the amount of time, and B, he was one of those like storytellers. Yep. Mr. McLaren's story is just like crazy stuff. You'll hear from him in a couple episodes, and just like loved Jesus, loved the gospel, and wanted us to know that. And how I teach is modeled after he taught. My coaches, Coach Ferretti, Murdoch, and Berger, were like the ones who like really honed in my super competitiveness and my terrible attitude on the baseball field to teach me like, no, like this isn't what matters. Like Jesus is what matters. And so I think through those different leaders, those teachers, coaches, my young life leaders, I think about what matters is my faith, what matters is the gospel, and I want my students to know that. And that I think impacts how I come across and how I run my classes.
Yeah, that's great. And a last big question. Like you said, you were a baseball player in high school and pretty involved there. And I felt like you just have like very candid views on high school and what's important. So I wanted to ask, what would be your advice to someone who is tempted to put their identity into either academics or athletics?
Yeah, I think it's easy that we always we want validation, we want to have success, we want attention. Like those are things that I think all high schoolers and almost all humans are like, that's what we desire, those things. We like the idea of success for me on the baseball field was, did we win? Did I play well? And if those two things didn't happen, then in my mind, it was a terrible game. And those two things rarely happened at the same time, nonetheless, individually. I played for a bad baseball team, and although that I thought I was very good, I was not. And so we have to realize that we will all fail. Not many people can get through high school without failing a test, without failing a quiz, without failing in whatever sport. Playing baseball is like the ultimate sport of failing, because if you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're like a good baseball player. Which means you're failing like all the time. And so it's easy to put our identity in things that we can see more of a tangible benefit that in our minds, but we can never satisfy ourselves. The sport we play will never satisfy. There's always the next mountaintop. There's always the next thing. At some point, you'll run out of the next things. Even like there's a classic Tom Brady quote that he's like, has won multiple Super Bowls, and he's like, there has to be more. It's like, even if you are literally the greatest, you've won at the best level. That's not what satisfies. Like, God is the only thing that can satisfy us.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like I also kind of learned this year that it's okay to fail in sports too, because obviously athletics has been a huge part of my time at Trinity. I just finished my 12th sports season in the upper school this week.
That's awesome.
And it didn't feel great in the moment, losing 6-0 for your last game ever, especially when you're the keeper. Kind of sucks. But I realized, like, after even just like being with the girls on the team, that like, oh, there's so much more, and like, your performance, it's really not.
And even just thinking about, like, there's not many teams that end the year with a win.
Right.
Almost every team is going to end the year with a loss.
Exactly. My dad was like, well, there's only one 3A school that ends with a win. And I was like, you're right. You're so right.
Not us.
It's not Trinity this year. That's okay. And then to move to some smaller little wrap-up questions. And this doesn't have to be long or whatever, but what's something that God has been teaching you lately? Maybe something more uncomfortable or unexpected.
I didn't get the memo. This is a smaller question, so there's going to be just as long as an answer.
Yeah, nope, it doesn't matter.
But one passage that I've been really leaning into this semester is Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. And it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This semester has been just incredibly hard for a lot of reasons. And I really resonate with the parable and the story of the wise and the foolish man. 'Cause I feel like this semester a storm has come and just like shaken our house. And it's at the point where there's no answers for why things have happened. There's not a, like, here's the happy ending. It's just that life is hard. And that God is still faithful. There were moments this semester where just crying out to God of like, why are these things happening? God, you are in control. You are, all powerful. You are all knowing. You are good. The things that I see in my life just don't line up. But I can also look back and see that like God has been faithful my whole life. He has never wavered. He's always been there. He can still give peace even in the troubled times. And this passage is like basically comes down to like I'm not God. I don't know everything. I don't have the same view of life that he does. And so that even as things like that happen that I cannot explain, I have no answers for why this would happen. I just have to lean on that God knows more than I am, more than I do. Like I am not God, which is great. No one wants me to be God, and just leaning in that even if I don't understand, like God is good. He is good all the time, and that does not change.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's something in the air, but like this semester has been so like a lot for everyone. I feel like kind of or I don't know, but yeah, that's really true. And like sometimes letting go and just being like, oh, that's not under my control,
right?
Is like the best thing, and it feels so much better when you're like, wait, I'm actually not in control.
Right. And that's where there is peace in that.
Yeah.
We do not need to be anxious or worry because there's not a whole lot we can control. Mm-hmm. We think we can control a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
But we really can't.
Yeah. And for this next question, I'm actually really curious on how you answer it, because like we talked about, you have a like reputation for having such a hard class, but I feel like it's like in pre-calc, I was expecting like horrible, like, I don't know, and it wasn't that bad if you actually like listen and stuff. So that's why this year has been harder. But yeah, anyways, I feel like people are a little dramatic about it, including me before.
I was going to say that you might also be dramatic.
just a little bit. But anyways, how would you like to be remembered as a teacher?
Yeah, this is a hard question because I do enjoy the idea that people are scared of my class. Like if I'm really honest,
no.
I enjoy that like there's a mystique around pre-calculus, but then you finish out the year, you're like, wait a second, this actually isn't that bad. That for me, that's one goal. That you think it's terrible, and I would love to. I try to set expectations low so that I can exceed. It's the only way to exceed expectations if they're low. But on a more serious note, I hope that students remember me as a teacher who actually cared about who they are, not just about my content. I love math. I'm passionate about it. And we have teachers who are passionate about their subjects, which is really cool to work in a place that like teachers actually care about what they teach and they care for the students. I'd rather the students remember me as someone who cares about who they are than care about like the math. I hope both. Right. And I hope that they remember that, like, I just want them to know who Jesus is. Like, that's the number one goal. If you fail every test, but you walk away from this school as a follower of Christ, like, that is what is ultimately important.
Yeah.
We often trick ourselves into thinking that we have to get into this college or that college. But God can use a tough class. God can use a no from a college to push us in a different direction, and knowing who Jesus is life-giving and the only way to find fulfillment.
Yeah. Well, personally for me, I feel like you have done that. I remember in last spring when I figured out that I was like gonna do work at Lost Canyon, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to tell Mr. Colston, and like me and Sadie were just so excited to like go tell you, because you know, like Young Life stuff.
Yeah, it's super cool the amount of you guys who've done work crew and have gone to Carolina Point and met my brother and sister-in-law, and my brother texted me last week that like a graduate was at Carolina Point and was like, hey, this student said that you taught her, and I was like, oh, that's cool that you guys have connected.
Yeah. It was just so fun to like come back and like tell you how it went.
Yeah.
Because like it's just that's so
an incredible life-shaping experience.
Yeah. Anyways, last thing, which I know I don't know what you're gonna say, but I told Mr. Colson quote of the day and he didn't know.
I'm not sure what this meant, so we'll see if this qualifies as a quote of the day.
Go ahead for the quote of the day.
Well, one quote that I love is comparison is the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. That is often attributed to Teddy Roosevelt. I'm not actually sure if that's where the quote came from. I don't know if anyone's sure where the quote came from, but it's really easy to get stuck into this comparison game. As seniors, you guys are literally comparing yourselves to people next to you and are trying to figure out like, okay, you got into this school, you didn't get into this school. But what's so hard about that is like, it's hard then to be happy for our friends who got into the school that we didn't, because we're playing this comparison game, which is not what God has called us to do. Like, we want to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Like, we need to find that empathy to love those who are going through that hard time and rejoice with those who are going through the good times. So I love this quote. I mean, it's hard. I struggle with this. Like, we have just amazing teachers here. And so I look at my peers and I say like, man, like, I'm not as good as they are, which could be true, but that's like, I do love my job. I love being here. And it's just we don't want to compare ourselves because we're not going to find joy in that.
No, not at all. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Colston, for being willing to do this. It means a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yay. And thanks for everyone who's listening. Hopefully I'll be back with another episode soon. And Miss Rignoni told me that I should say like and subscribe the YouTube video because I didn't say that in the previous ones. So if you guys want to, go like and subscribe. Thank you.